Okay, today we are doing 5.7 hippo, and last night you guys learned about transformations. So let's just do a quick review. What is a translation? You should have said slide. So it's when we're sliding a figure. What about a rotation? This is when you turn an object, and remember, we call whatever we turn it around the center of rotation. And finally, what about a reflection? That is a flip, or think of a mirror. Okay, so let's see with these two if we can identify as a translation, a rotation, reflection, or none. So let's start with number one. If you see, we've rotated it, so for this one you should have said rotation. And for number two, it looks like we're just sliding it, so a slide is a translation. Okay, let's practice a translation here in number 5. It's wanting us to slide it 3 units down. So all that means is that I'm going to take each point and I'm going to move it down 3 points. So this point, when I would go 1, 2, 3, and it would move here. This one, I would go 1, 2, 3, and it would go there. I could then connect them. And let's do the same for the other two. So you try the other two on your own. And that is our translation, 3 units down. Now the next one that we want to do is a rotation around 0, 0. That point 0, 0, remember that's called the origin. That's the point right here. And remember, when we're doing a rotation around 180 degrees, both of the ordered pairs flip. So let's start by writing down the 4 ordered pairs. So this first one here we would say is, since we're moving 2 to the right, would be 2, and we went up 1, 1. See if you can find the other 3 on your own. Okay, these are the ordered pairs that you should have come up with. Now, if I want to do a rotation, I just need to take the opposite of both of them. So for example, the opposite of 2 is -2, and the opposite of 1 is -1. So if I were to graph that point, I would go 2 to the left and down 1. Alright, let's try coming up with the opposites for the other 3 points. Alright, this is what you should have come up with: -3, -3, 2, -1, and 1, -3. Now I just took the opposite of all these points. Now let's graph them. So after you've graphed them, you can see that this looks very similar to a slide. The difference is we did a 180-degree rotation. So remember, we're only taking the opposite of both if we're doing a 180-degree rotation. Alright, finally let's talk about reflecting across the X and the Y axis. So as a little reminder, if we are going to reflect across the X axis, remember it's opposite. Y is what changes, or is the opposite. If we want to reflect across the Y axis, it's the X that changes, or you take the opposite of. So I'm going to do the X-axis in red and the Y-axis in blue. So let's start with the X-axis. We're going to start with the points -2, 3. If I were to reflect that across the X-axis, I want to change the Y. So remember, it goes X, Y. So it would be -2, -3. See if you can do reflecting across the X-axis for number 2. You should have came up with -4, 1. Now if we're talking about the y-axis, I'm flipping, or I'm changing and taking the opposite of x. So if I look back at number 1, it's going to become 2, 3. I'm not looking at this one anymore. I'm going back to the original so that 3 stays the same. See if you can do number 2 on your own. You should have came up with 4, -1. Okay, the homework that you can start is on page 257. I want you to do numbers 15 through 26 all. After you finish that, then do numbers 12 through 14 all. If you finish, you can grab a computer and do con. Your homework for this weekend is to do 5.8 notes and exit slip.